The day.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Alex Torelli, and welcome back to an episode of The Hand of the Day. If this isn't the most ridiculous hand of poker you've ever seen, I just quit. I don't even know what to do. This was sent to me by one of my readers and asked me to analyze it. This is just absolutely insane. Okay, let's get to it. So this is some PokerStars Spanish tournament in Spain, and we have our hero in the hand, who Vincente, my Spanish isn't great, so bear with me, opens on 1,500 blinds. He opens in like mid position to 300 with ace jack of clubs. Now it gets folded around to the big blind, but in the time that it gets folded, Vincente mistakenly thinks that everybody has folded, so he flips over his ace jack of clubs for the entire table to see. Now the big blind still has a decision to make when this happens. I don't know exactly the rules, but how it was ruled in this hand was that Vincente has to leave his hand face up, and the big blind still has a decision. So his cards are exposed, right? The big blind has perfect information, and Vincente is sort of handcuffed. He doesn't know what the big blind has, but he still has to play the hand. So the big blind could technically shove all in, he can call, he can raise, he can fold. And Vincente is going to be left playing an epic guessing game, and this hand truly does get ridiculous. So the big blind now wakes up, Alfredo wakes up with 2 9s, which is a real hand. Now, I think they have like 8,000 in this hand, so like 80 big blinds or so, maybe 100 big blinds, 10,000. Alfredo could make a case for just shoving here because he has the best hand. I don't know how Vincente would react. I guess he's going to fold. He should fold. He's supposed to fold, assuming Alfredo is shoving correctly. But Alfredo could almost shove here with any 2 cards just because Vincente is really never going to call, or he never should call. Now, how he's actually going to react, I have no idea. But certainly Alfredo can't fold, right? I mean, he's getting a great price. He knows his opponent's 2 cards. He's got to play the hand. I wouldn't like 3-betting here if I'm Alfredo, because I wouldn't want my opponent to shove, even though that sounds crazy. Like, why would he do that when I could see his cards? Some people just lose their mind and do weird stuff. So I'm okay with calling if I'm Alfredo. I'm okay with just shoving, but I think I like just calling better and just realizing my equity, playing the hand. I could see the guy's cards. Why wouldn't I just call and take a flop? Anyway, as crazy as this is a little ridiculous to analyze, but it is a fun hand. There will be a lot of fun concepts in it from a game theory standpoint going forward. Alfredo does call, and we go heads up to the flop. So this is where things get pretty special. The flop comes Jack 9 deuce with a flush draw. So both players flop an absolute monster, and Vincente even has a backdoor flush draw. So this flops an absolute monster here, especially from a calling hand in the big blind. So now Alfredo probably should bet here from a theory standpoint, because even though Vincente is likely to have the best hand, it sort of doesn't make sense logically to c-bet when your opponent can see your cards, because presumably they should be playing quite perfectly against you. They should be check raising if they have you beat, check calling if they have any equity, maybe check raising some bluffs, but you're not really going to know what to do. So if I'm Alfredo and I flop 3 9s here, I don't expect Vincente to ever bet if I check, because it doesn't really make much sense. But I also don't expect Vincente to ever fold, because I can see his cards, and if he's going to just fold every time, it's too exploitable from a theory standpoint. So like some of the time, Alfredo's going to be bluffing here to kind of try and level Vincente into getting him to fold. So I would bet here with a set of 9s, and I would expect Vincente to always call. Now, the pot is already 850, like 650 here. If I'm Alfredo, he bets 200 into 650. That's way too small. Your opponent is never going to fold to that amount, and you got to put him to a tough decision if you're going to bet here. I guess the case for betting 200 is that you buy yourself a cheap card, but I think you buy yourself a cheap card by checking because your opponent's never really going to bet. So I guess I'm okay with betting 200 like long term, but I would much rather either check or bet something like 600 or maybe even 800 or 1,000, because it really puts him to a really, really tough decision. Let's face it, you're overbetting the pot. Sure, your opponent has top pair, top kicker, but you can see his cards. So it's pretty dicey for him to start putting a ton of money in with top pair, top kicker. So I would bet bigger here. Anyway, he bets 200, and this is where things get even more ridiculous. Vincente, whose cards are exposed, raises to 600. I don't know what he's hoping to accomplish here, like to take control of the hand or to keep the lead or to find out where he's at. I mean, the guy can see your cards. So raising here is ludicrous, right? It's absolutely insane. The only thing that you're hoping is basically that Alfredo shoves or 3-bets on a draw to hope that you fold because you can see his cards, and then he actually has a worse hand than you, like a stone bluff. I guess there's some logic to it in the sense that Vincente's hand is so likely to be the best hand that it denies Alfredo's equity. He puts him to a tough decision in a weird sort of way. But like, if you're raising here and you're opening the door and you're Vincente, you can't fold to any 3-bet, right? You just can't fold if you're going to raise this flop because you just don't know how Alfredo is going to react. And if Alfredo is going to bluff with some frequency, which he should be doing, you really can't fold here. That being said, I don't like opening this door to Alfredo when he could see my cards, just because I don't know how he's going to react, if he's going to lose his mind and shove all in with like 10-8 or reasonably bluff with 10-8 to try and get me to fold, or if he's just going to call, or if he's only going to fold if he has me beat. So I just don't know what he's going to do, presumably because I'm not in this spot that often. So I'm just going to call with ace-jack and see a turn. Anyway, Vincente raises. Now, Alfredo, rightly so, has the best hand, and he should always be 3-betting here when he has Vincente beat. Again, his sizing here is way too small. He makes it 1,200. He should be making it like 2,500 here and putting Vincente to a really tough test. Again, Vincente is never going to fold once he raises this flop. Like, he says, I know you can see my cards. I don't care. I think you're trying to mess around with me. And if that's his logic, he's not going to fold no matter what. So if I'm Alfredo, I'm going at least 2,000, probably 2,500, and I'm jamming the turn. That's just how I'm playing this hand at this point. I think it's actually a super lucky spot for Alfredo to actually have the best hand and have Vincente allow you to take advantage of him like this. As played, Alfredo makes it 1,200. Vincente at this point has the same sort of easy call. At this point, he can't really fold, given how he played the hand. So he calls. We go heads up to the turn. Turn comes miraculously a jack as well, right? So now Vincente is thinks he has this board locked. He's not going anywhere. And Alfredo has essentially the nuts, right? He has a boat. So this is just so ridiculous. So Alfredo, I'm getting these names backwards. Spanish is not my language. Alfredo has quite an easy bet, right? He shouldn't check here for all the same reasons on the flop. Like, Vincente probably isn't going to bet. He shouldn't really bet. And he's never going to fold if you bet. So I would always bet here if I'm Alfredo. That being said, if I'm Vincente, I'm not going to fold this turn probably, but like, it takes a ton of balls for your opponent to even wildly consider bluffing here, because you know that he can see your cards. You have 3 jacks. I mean, it's pretty hard to think that you're going to fold a hand this big, and your opponent has to have some serious balls to bluff here. Maybe like Tom Dwan could bluff here because he's on that level of like, you know that he knows that you know that he knows type of thing. But I'd say 99% of the players are just not going to bluff here. Maybe that's not true. Anyway, it takes a lot of balls to bluff. That being said, I like Alfredo's bet of 2,000. Totally reasonable. Much better bet size, especially given their stack size and the pot size. I'm fine with that. Vincente now is, of course, going to call. He has 3 jacks. He's just never going to fold here. So it's just crazy. So Vincente goes ahead and calls the turn. At least he doesn't raise, basically allowing his opponent to play perfectly. He does just call, hoping he has the best hand. We go heads up to the river, which, even crazier than the flop and the turn and pre-flop and the whole thing, the river is a deuce. So now Vincente luck boxes his way out of this hand, drawing absolutely dead, making a ton of mistakes in the hand, finds his way to having an actual full house on the river. Pot is 7,000. And now Alfredo, rightly so, decides to check because it would be a little ridiculous to bet here, knowing that number 1, your opponent's never going to fold, and number 2, that you have the worst hand. If I'm Alfredo here, I'm only going to bet if I have Vincente beat. I'm going to bet with all my jacks because I tie, so I'm a free roll to shove. And I'm going to bet with quads, and I'm going to bet with jack 9. That's it. Alfredo should never bluff here. That would be absolutely insane. Now, Vincente, the pot is 7,000. Vincente now goes for value on the river when his opponent can see his cards. He's milking them, right? So he bets 1,000 here on this river into a pot of 7,000. I don't know what he's hoping. I mean, I guess like it's theoretically impossible that Alfredo calls with a worse hand, right? Alfredo can see Vincente's cards. He has perfect information. It is actually, I rarely say this in poker, but it's actually 0% that he calls with a worse hand, because that would be, that's just insanity, right? You can't call knowing you have the worst hand on the river. So I don't know what Vincente's trying to accomplish here. I guess he's hoping that Alfredo just is so tilted about this whole hand that he calls, which doesn't really make much sense, or that Alfredo shoves and Vincente's gonna hero call it off, hoping that he's bluffing. Both of those things seem insane to me, so I would probably check the river here. But magically, Vincente looks like a total rock star in this hand because Alfredo just tilt shoves all in for 4,200 or 4,300. So now Alfredo decides to bluff this river with blockers, which I guess if you're gonna bluff the river from a theory standpoint, you have the best hand to do it, because this is really the only hand that you can block jack 9, but this is so far out in the wild west of insanity that this is an absolutely terrible play. You should never make it. Especially because Vincente has shown his propensity to not fold in lieu of the fact that his opponent can see his cards. And he has a boat, and nobody folds a boat, and he's calling 3,000 to win 12,000, so he's getting 4-1, which means he only needs to be right 20% of the time, and he is never going to fold here. So I don't know what Alfredo's doing. I guess some people, this is sort of gives credence to the fact that some people really do lose their mind in these sorts of situations. And Vincente just slam dunks at home and calls the river and busts Alfredo in this hand. So this hand, ironically, probably would have played out a similar way, even if Vincente didn't show his cards pre-flop. But the fact that he still got all the money even after showing his 2 cards is truly spectacular. And this is probably, I think I played like 2-3 million hands of poker in my life, but this might be the most insane hand of poker I have ever seen. Leave me your thoughts below in a comment. Let me know what you think, what you would have done. This is just so ridiculous that it's sort of laughable to try and analyze, but there is some strategy involved. In general, if your opponents can see your cards and you're up against a really good player who's going to bluff you with a decent frequency, this actually happened in a big game I was playing with in Macau. And yes, he's going to value bet you to death. He's going to value bet you every time his hand is better than yours. But if you're going to fold every single time that your cards are exposed, then you're going to be over folding and your opponent could just bluff you 100% of the time. Now, I understand that might be a reasonable strategy when the pot is really small. You might just give up the pot and give up some equity. Like if I'm Vincente on the flop, maybe it's better just to fold the flop because you're going to be put in an impossible spot and you don't know what to do. And even though you're so likely to be folding the best hand a decent amount of the time, maybe it's better just to fold and give up your equity rather than just committing your whole stack to the pot, not knowing what strategy your opponent's going to be on. But from a game theory standpoint, you do have to call some of the time when your opponent can see your cards. Otherwise, you're going to be bluffed 100% of the time and you're going to be exploitable. So it's a really tough situation to be in. I actually don't mind Vincente not folding in this hand, but raising was absolutely insane. Anyway, leave your thoughts in a comment below. I'd love to hear what you guys think. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, share it with someone. This is totally wild. Give it a thumbs up, like it. I'd appreciate it. Subscribe to my channel. See, putting out a lot of new content, and I'll see you guys next time on The Hand of the Day. Thanks for watching.